The impossible demand. The message that changed everything. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the reinforced windows. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved its greatest accomplishment by mastering faster-than-light travel. Now, they were about to face something far more challenging than the physics of interstellar travel. The communication from the Galactic Federation had arrived 2 weeks earlier. It was polite, formal, and absolutely terrifying. Humanity was invited to join the Federation of Civilized Worlds, an organization that had maintained order across the galaxy for over 5,000 years. At first, Earth's leaders had celebrated. This was the moment they had dreamed of since the first telescopes pointed at the stars. But when the full terms arrived, the celebration stopped. Sarah had been chosen to lead the diplomatic mission because of her military background and her doctorate in xenopolitics. She understood both strategy and culture. But nothing in her training had prepared her for what the Federation was asking. The terms scrolled across her data pad for the 100th time, and each reading made her stomach twist tighter. The price of membership. The Galactic Federation wanted 50% of Earth's annual mineral production. They wanted access to every database, every research facility, every piece of technology humanity had developed. But worst of all, they wanted 200,000 human soldiers to serve in their peacekeeping forces for 20-year deployments. The message was clear. Join us, give us everything, and maybe we will protect you. Lieutenant James Rodriguez approached Sarah with a fresh cup of coffee. He had been her second in command for 5 years, and she trusted his judgment more than anyone else on the ship. His face showed the same concern she felt. The crew was scared, and they had every right to be. "Captain, we're approaching the rendezvous point," James said quietly. "The Federation battlecruiser will be here in 30 minutes. What are we going to tell them?" Sarah took the coffee and sipped it slowly. It was bitter, just like the situation they found themselves in. Earth's government had spent 2 weeks debating the terms. The votes were split almost evenly. Some leaders argued that humanity had no choice but to accept. Others insisted that accepting meant giving up their freedom forever. In the end, they had decided to send Sarah to negotiate, but everyone knew the Federation did not negotiate. She looked out at the stars and thought about human history. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. They had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near extinction from their own weapons. Every time someone tried to dominate them, humans found a way to fight back. Sometimes they lost, but they never stopped trying. That stubbornness was both humanity's greatest strength and its most dangerous weakness. The Federation's representative. The hyperspace window collapsed, and suddenly they were in normal space. Before them hung a ship that made the horizon look like a child's toy. The Federation battlecruiser was 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor that gleamed under the light of a nearby star. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A communication channel opened, and a holographic figure appeared on the bridge. It was an alien species Sarah recognized from the briefing files. The Kelmorians were one of the founding members of the Federation. They stood nearly 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their eyes were large and dark, showing no emotion that Sarah could read. "I am High Commander Velcros of the Galactic Federation," the alien said through a translation device. The voice was smooth but carried an edge of superiority. "You are Captain Mitchell of Earth, correct?" "That's correct, High Commander," Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. "Thank you for meeting with us." Velcros made a gesture with 2 of his hands that might have been dismissive. "Your thanks are premature, Captain. We are here to receive Earth's acceptance of the Federation's terms. Have your leaders prepared the necessary documents?" Sarah felt James tense beside her. This was the moment. She could deliver Earth's answer and hope for the best, or she could try to buy more time. But looking at Velcros's expression, she knew time would not change anything. The Federation had made its decision, and they expected humanity to fall in line like every other species before them. High Commander, Earth's government has concerns about the terms, Sarah began carefully. The resource contribution would severely impact our development. The technology sharing could compromise our security. And the military conscription raises serious ethical questions about. Captain Mitchell, Velcro's interrupted, his voice hardening. These are not concerns. These are excuses. Every species that joins the Federation contributes according to their capability. Earth is a young civilization with limited understanding of galactic politics. You should be grateful we are offering membership at all. The human response. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced it down. Losing her temper would accomplish nothing. Instead, she thought about what her grandfather had told her when she was young. He had been a soldier in the last major conflict on Earth, and he had taught her that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was stand your ground even when you knew you could not win. With respect, High Commander, Earth is not ungrateful, Sarah said slowly. We understand the benefits of Federation membership. But we also understand what you're really offering. You want our resources, our technology, and our people. In return, you offer us protection from threats we have not seen and technology we did not ask for. This is not membership. This is subjugation. The bridge went silent. Sarah's crew stared at her in shock. Even James looked worried. Speaking to the Federation this way was dangerous. But Sarah was done being polite to bullies who dressed up their demands in diplomatic language. Velcro's dark eyes narrowed. You dare speak to me this way? Do you understand who you are addressing? I represent 5,000 years of galactic civilization. Your species has been in space for less than a century. You are children playing with technology you barely comprehend. Maybe we are children, Sarah agreed. But children grow up. And when they do, they stop letting others tell them what to do. Your arrogance will be your downfall, Velcro said coldly. The Federation has dealt with rebellious species before. They all learn to cooperate eventually. Some learn the easy way. Others learn through consequences they could not avoid. Which path will humanity choose? Sarah looked at her crew. They were scared, but she also saw something else in their eyes. They were proud. Proud that their captain had stood up to an alien empire. Proud that humanity was not rolling over without a fight. That pride gave her courage to say what needed to be said. The word that shook the galaxy. Earth's government has authorized me to deliver our official response to the Galactic Federation's terms, Sarah said formally. She pulled up a document on her datapad and read the words that had been debated for 2 weeks. Words that would change everything. After careful consideration of the terms presented by the Galactic Federation, and after consultation with every government, organization, and representative body on Earth, humanity has reached a unanimous decision regarding membership. Velcro's leaned forward slightly, expecting surrender. Sarah took a breath and delivered the message that Earth had entrusted to her. No. 1 word. 2 letters. But in that moment, it felt like the most powerful word Sarah had ever spoken. She saw Velcro's expression change from confidence to confusion to anger in the span of seconds. The alien commander had clearly never heard that response before. What did you say? Velcro's demanded. No, Sarah repeated, stronger this time. Earth rejects the Federation's terms. We will not give you our resources. We will not give you our technology. And we will absolutely not give you our people to fight in your wars. We refuse. The communication channel crackled with interference as Velcro's processed what he had heard. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with barely controlled rage. You are making a grave mistake, Captain Mitchell. Species that refuse the Federation's protection face isolation and abandonment. You will receive no aid, no trade, no support from any member world. And when threats come to your doorstep, as they inevitably will, you will face them alone. Then we'll face them alone, Sarah said simply. Humanity has been alone since we first looked at the stars. We're used to it. The consequences begin. Velcro stood to his full height, all four arms spreading wide in what Sarah recognized as a threat display. Very well. The Galactic Federation hereby declares Earth a non-compliant species. All contact with humanity is forbidden. Any human vessels found in Federation space will be seized. And if Earth attempts to expand beyond your own star system, we will respond with appropriate force. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Sarah's crew stood in stunned silence. They had just declared independence from the most powerful organization in the galaxy. In the distance, the Federation battlecruiser began to move. For a moment, Sarah wondered if Velcros would attack immediately. But the massive ship simply turned and jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the horizon alone among the stars. James was the first to speak. "Captain, what have we done?" Sarah continued staring at the spot where the Federation ship had been. "We made a choice, Lieutenant. Maybe it was the right choice. Maybe it was suicide. But it was our choice, and that matters." She turned to face her crew. They looked terrified and excited at the same time. They had just witnessed humanity's first real step into galactic politics, and it had been a step backward into isolation. But it had also been a step taken with pride. "Set course for Earth," Sarah ordered. "We need to tell them what happened and start preparing for what comes next. The Federation won't forgive this insult easily. They'll want to make an example of us to show other species what happens when you say no." As the horizon turned toward home, Sarah pulled up the star charts showing Earth's position in the galaxy. They were far from Federation territory, in a region that most civilized species considered too remote to be worth claiming. That isolation had protected humanity for years, letting them develop without interference. Now it might be the only thing that saved them from immediate retaliation. Part 2, Preparing for the Storm. Earth's Response. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. The room was packed with diplomats, military leaders, scientists, and politicians. Everyone wanted to hear firsthand what had happened at the meeting with the Galactic Federation. The chamber was so quiet that Sarah could hear her own heartbeat. She had given her report 3 times already. Once to the military command, once to the civilian government, and once to the scientific council. Each time, the response had been the same mixture of fear and determination. Now she would tell the story one final time to the people who would decide humanity's future. "Distinguished representatives," Sarah began, "I delivered Earth's refusal to High Commander Velcros of the Galactic Federation. His response was immediate and hostile. The Federation has declared us a non-compliant species. We are now isolated from all galactic trade, communication, and support. Any human vessel that enters Federation space will be seized, and any attempt to expand beyond our solar system will be met with military force." A representative from Brazil raised his hand. "Captain Mitchell, in your opinion, will the Federation attack Earth directly?" Sarah considered the question carefully. She had spent 3 weeks analyzing every word, every gesture, every detail of her conversation with Velcros. "Not immediately. The Federation wants to make an example of us, but they also want to minimize their own costs. An invasion fleet would need to travel across significant distance to reach Earth. That takes time and resources. I believe they'll try isolation first, hoping we'll change our minds when we realize how alone we are. And if isolation doesn't work, ask the Chinese ambassador. Then they'll escalate," Sarah said honestly. "The Federation has existed for 5,000 years. They've never tolerated defiance because defiance threatens their entire system. If other species see humanity refusing and surviving, they might start refusing too. The Federation can't allow that." Admiral William Jackson stood up from the military section. He was the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, a career soldier who had spent 40 years preparing for conflicts that until now had been purely theoretical. "How long do we have, Captain. 3 months, maybe 6, Sarah estimated. That's how long it will take them to organize a response and travel here. They'll send a fleet large enough to intimidate us into surrender but not so large that it looks like they're worried. My guess is between 1 and 300 ships. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. 300 ships sounded like an impossible number. Earth's entire military fleet consisted of 400 combat vessels, and most of those were designed for patrol duty, not fleet combat against advanced alien technology. Dr. Elena Kowalski, Earth's leading expert in xenotechnology, stood up from the scientific section. Captain Mitchell, you observed their ship directly. What can you tell us about their technology compared to ours? Understanding the enemy. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the Federation battlecruiser she had encountered. The 3-kilometer vessel rotated slowly in the air above the assembly. It looked invincible. Their ships are larger and more advanced than ours in almost every way. Their weapons have longer range, their shields are stronger, and their engines are more efficient. In a direct fight, one of their battlecruisers could probably destroy 10 of our ships. The room fell silent again. If the math was that simple, Earth could not win. But Sarah was not finished. However, I noticed something important. The Federation has been at peace for over 1,000 years. Their ships are designed for intimidation and patrol work, not for actual combat against an equal opponent. Their tactics are straightforward. They rely on their technological advantage to overwhelm opponents before any real fighting begins. Admiral Jackson leaned forward with interest. You're saying they've forgotten how to fight? I'm saying they've never needed to learn how to fight against someone who fights back intelligently, Sarah clarified. Every species they've encountered either surrendered immediately or was so technologically inferior that tactics didn't matter. But humanity has spent its entire existence fighting. We know how to use guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and psychological warfare. We know how to make a superior enemy pay for every inch of ground. The Russian general, Dmitry Volkov, nodded slowly. The Federation expects us to meet them in open battle where their superior technology gives them the advantage. But we don't have to fight that way. Exactly, Sarah agreed. Our solar system is our home ground. We know every asteroid, every orbital path, every hiding spot. We can use that knowledge to offset their technological advantage. And we have one more advantage they don't expect. What's that? Asked the Indian Prime Minister. Sarah looked around the chamber at the representatives of humanity. Despite their different cultures, languages, and histories, they were all united in this moment. Unity. Every war in human history has been humans fighting humans. But now we have a common enemy. Every nation on Earth has agreed to combined command. Every resource will be shared. Every strategy will be coordinated. The Federation is used to fighting divided, primitive species. They've never faced anything like a unified humanity. The defense plan. Admiral Jackson stood and walked to the holographic display. He changed it to show Earth's solar system with various defensive positions marked in red. Over the next 3 months, we'll implement the following defense strategy. Captain Mitchell will coordinate the overall plan. The display zoomed in on Earth's orbit, showing a ring of weapons platforms and shield generators. First, we fortify Earth itself. Every orbital station will be armed. Every satellite will be weaponized. We'll create a defensive sphere around our planet that can withstand sustained bombardment. The display shifted to show the moon. Second, we turn Luna into a fortress. The moon's low gravity makes it perfect for launching heavy weapons into space. We'll build mass drivers that can throw kinetic projectiles at enemy ships. We'll establish underground bases that can survive anything short of planetary bombardment. Next, the display showed Mars and the asteroid belt. Third, we create forward defensive lines. Mars will become our early warning station and secondary defense point. The asteroid belt will be our guerrilla warfare zone. We'll hide ships, weapons, and automated drones among the asteroids. When the Federation fleet arrives, they'll have to fight through millions of rocks, and they won't know which ones are just rocks and which ones are bombs. Dr. Kowalski added her thoughts. We'll also implement technological improvements across all systems. I've analyzed the data Captain Mitchell brought back, and I've identified several ways we can upgrade our weapons to be more effective against Federation shields. We won't match their technology, but we can make ourselves much more dangerous than they expect. A representative from Africa raised her hand. This all sounds impressive, but let's be honest. Can we actually win a war against the Galactic Federation? The room waited for Admiral Jackson's answer. He looked around at the faces staring at him with hope, fear, and determination. Win? Probably not. The Federation has thousands of worlds and unlimited resources. They can replace every ship they lose. We can't. But winning isn't our goal. Then what is our goal? Someone asked. Survival, Jackson said simply. We need to make the cost of conquering Earth so high that the Federation decides it's not worth the effort. We need to bloody their nose badly enough that they'll accept a negotiated peace. And most importantly, we need to show every other species in the galaxy that saying no to the Federation is possible. Sarah stepped forward again. The Federation maintains control through fear and intimidation. They convince species that resistance is hopeless, so most species don't even try. But if humanity resists and survives, even if we're wounded and isolated, it proves that the Federation isn't invincible. Other species will see that, and some of them will start thinking about their own freedom. You're talking about starting a galactic revolution, the Chinese ambassador said slowly. I'm talking about giving others hope, Sarah corrected. What they do with that hope is up to them. But first, we need to survive long enough to inspire anyone. That means preparing for the hardest fight humanity has ever faced. The military buildup. The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity. Every shipyard on Earth, Luna, and Mars worked around the clock to build new vessels and upgrade existing ones. Factories that had produced consumer goods were converted to military production. Scientists who had been researching peaceful applications of technology now focused on weapons and defenses. Sarah found herself at the center of it all. As the architect of Earth's refusal, she had become the symbol of humanity's resistance. She traveled from base to base, meeting with soldiers, engineers, and commanders. Everywhere she went, people wanted to shake her hand and thank her for standing up to the Federation. It made her uncomfortable. She had only delivered a message. The real heroes would be the ones who fought and died to back up that message. On Luna, she inspected the new mass driver installations. The weapons were simple but effective. They used magnetic acceleration to throw chunks of iron at incredible speeds. When those projectiles hit something, the kinetic energy would tear through even advanced shields. The engineers called them rail guns, and they had built 300 of them across Luna's surface. Each gun can fire once every 30 seconds, explained Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, who oversaw the lunar defenses. We've calculated that if a Federation battlecruiser tries to approach Earth, it will face a constant barrage of projectiles. Their shields will hold for a while, but eventually, something will get through. What about their return fire? Sarah asked. Chen pointed to the lunar surface around them. We've built the installations underground with only the barrels exposed. They'll have to score a direct hit on a relatively small target. Meanwhile, we're shooting at ships that are 3 kilometers long. The math favors us here. At Mars, Sarah met with the fleet commanders who would lead humanity's mobile forces. Colonel Marcus Webb commanded the fast attack squadrons. His ships were smaller than Federation vessels but much more maneuverable. We're not going to trade shots with them, Webb explained as they reviewed tactical simulations. We're going to hit and run. Strike from an unexpected angle, fire everything we have, and then disappear into the asteroid belt before they can respond. Death by 1,000 cuts. Can your pilots handle that kind of combat? Sarah asked. Webb smiled grimly. They're the best pilots humanity has ever produced. They've been training their entire lives for this. And they're angry, Captain. Everyone on Earth is angry. The Federation threatened us, demanded our submission, and told us we had no choice. These pilots are going to show them exactly what happens when you threaten humanity. In the asteroid belt, Sarah inspected the hidden bases that would serve as supply depots and ambush points. Commander Lisa Park, who oversaw the asteroid defenses, showed her around one of the hollowed-out rocks that now served as a military installation. "We've got 2,000 of these scattered throughout the belt," Park explained. "Each one has weapons, supplies, and enough life support to keep a crew alive for months. When the Federation comes through here, they'll be fighting in a three-dimensional maze where every shadow could hide an enemy." "How do you know they'll come through the belt?" Sarah asked. "Because that's the most direct route to Earth," Park said confidently. "The Federation thinks like an empire. They'll take the straightest path because they don't think they need to be cautious. That arrogance is going to cost them." The waiting game. Back on Earth, Sarah stood in the command center that would coordinate humanity's defense. The room was filled with displays showing every defensive position in the solar system. Green dots represented human forces. When the Federation arrived, red dots would appear showing enemy ships. The contrast would be stark. Earth had 400 combat vessels, 300 mass drivers, and thousands of smaller weapons platforms. The Federation would bring overwhelming force. Admiral Jackson joined her at the main display. "For months since you delivered our answer," he said quietly. "Intelligence suggests the Federation fleet will arrive within the next 2 weeks. How are the crews holding up?" Sarah asked. "They're ready," Jackson replied. "Scared, but ready. Everyone knows what's coming. Everyone knows the odds. But nobody is talking about surrender. After your meeting with Velcros, humanity realized something important. We'd rather die free than live as subjects." Sarah thought about that. It was a noble sentiment, but she hoped it would not come to that. "Admiral, have we considered what happens if we actually hurt them badly? If we destroy half their fleet?" "They'll send more ships," Jackson said simply. "And we'll destroy those too. And they'll send more. Eventually, they'll either give up or we'll run out of ships and soldiers. But that's future Sarah and future Admiral Jackson's problem. Right now, we just need to survive the first battle." The command center's alert system suddenly activated. A technician called out from his station. "Admiral, Captain, we're detecting unusual readings at the edge of the solar system. Multiple hyperspace signatures incoming." Sarah and Jackson rushed to the sensor station. The display showed dozens of contacts appearing in the space beyond Pluto. Then dozens more. Then hundreds. The Federation fleet had arrived, and it was larger than anyone had predicted. "Count is at 500 ships and climbing," the technician reported, his voice shaking. "Admiral, there are over 800 Federation vessels entering the solar system." Jackson's face went pale, but his voice remained steady. "Sound General Quarters. All personnel to battle stations. Launch all fighters. Activate all defensive systems. And send a message to every human in this solar system. Tell them the Federation is here, and we're not backing down." Sarah watched the red dots multiply on the display. 800 ships. The Federation had sent nearly double what she had predicted. They were not taking any chances. They wanted to crush humanity's resistance so completely that no other species would ever dare to refuse them. She thought about her grandfather's words again. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand your ground even when you know you cannot win." She had stood her ground when she said no to Velcros. Now it was time for all of humanity to stand together. "All stations reporting ready," the technician announced. "Earth Defense Force is at full combat readiness." Jackson looked at Sarah. "Any last words before this starts, Captain?" Sarah thought for a moment, then smiled slightly. Yeah. Let's show the galaxy what humans are made of. The Federation fleet began its advance toward Earth. 800 ships against 400. Superior technology against desperate courage. An ancient empire against a young species that refused to kneel. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and the entire galaxy was about to learn that humans did not surrender easily. In the cold